We have a new sponsor and an old friend joining Envy Pillow here, Sierra Sil. With 2 rare patents and a money-back guarantee, Sierra Sil, available at Shoppers Drug Mart, London Drugs, and health food stores, is the natural mineral joint pain remedy you need.
Go to sierrasil.com, SIERRASIL.com, and use the code GF for 10% off. Welcome to another edition of Gracefully and Frankly, and I've run out of fingers, so we must be at episode 11. I'm Lisa Brandt.
Hi, I'm Erin Davis. We got a great show for you this week, and we're going to get straight to it. We're talking about everything from woke to new words to the champagne carpet at the Oscars and that dress that never, ever, ever should have made it into the auditorium.
And we'll get into your coffee as well. The good, the bad, and the impossible to metabolize.
Yeah.
And whether going down in your coffee consumption might be a good idea for your health.
But not for the people around you. Hey, speaking of having a good sleep, Gracefully and Frankly is free to you thanks to the women at Envy Pillow, 2 RNs who have created an amazing company. Look it up. They were on Dragon's Den and they turned down money. They're that good. It all began with a pillow designed to reduce wrinkles while you sleep. Now there are ergonomic, environmentally sensitive pillows, plus glorious silk pillowcases, and we've even got a discount code for you, Lisa.
Yes, we do. GF is the code to get you 10% off your Envy Pillow purchase at envypillow.com.
That's right. It's envypillow.com. And sleep with the best. We do. How are you this week, my friend? Episode 11.
Much, much better, thank you. Improving every week from whatever this plague was that I got. That's not COVID-19. And how are you coming off your big first in-person full-day MC gig in a long time?
Oh, thanks for asking. That was last Thursday, and yeah, it was big. It was a couple hundred people with a branch of the BC government, and they couldn't have been better. But I'll tell you, I had a couple of awakenings, and yeah, I go back to Toronto and I do these a couple times a year. I still MC things. But in this case, for one thing, one of the speakers was very graphic about her experience in the residential schools as a child, her mother's experience, her grandmother's experience. And it was very graphic because, you know, it's not a fairy tale. It's some really awful things happened. But when it was over, the CEO said, I'm going to go out. And this was after a lunch break. She said, I'm going to go out. I got to say a few things. Because a couple of people had said to her how profoundly disturbing it was. And you know what? I get that. There were people there who were very disturbed by her message. And so the CEO, which I think was showing great leadership, went out and said, you know what? We could have done that better. We could have prepared you more for it. That was my first experience in that sort of a situation where, you know, I had presented it as this is going to be uplifting. You cannot believe how far she has come. I mean, this is the woman who started Orange Shirt Day.
Wow.
And as I said later, she's going to be on a stamp if anybody ever uses stamps again. So that happened. And that was an eye opener for me. I won't use the word triggered, but it almost felt a little bit like that.
Yeah.
And the other one was one of our guest speakers, his mic, and then his second mic, and then his third mic all failed. There were sound problems, and that was through no fault of ours. But I leaned over and I had on my lapel mic, right? And I said, well, we might just have to do it like this. And the gentleman was in a wheelchair. I should tell you that too, to sort of set the story, because he's an amazing man, Warren McDonald, and his TV show is called I Shouldn't Be Alive. But I leaned over and I said, we may have to do it this way. And he said, well, that'll be awkward. And I said, no, it could be fun. And all of a sudden, I heard the Golden Girls coming out of my mouth. I heard Rue McClanahan, or whatever her name was, saying, no, honey, it could be fun. And I thought, oh, crap. I can't flirt anymore. Now I just seem like this is awful.
Did you feel like you were being predatory, or that people viewed you that way? Like from inside, when you're 60, you don't feel any different than you did when you were 34, right?
Absolutely. But moving away from that topic, because he was great about it and he laughed and everybody laughed, and I will always go for a cheap laugh without offending anyone or anyone's sensibilities. But it was eye-opening for me. It's like, Something you said, Lisa, when we were sitting around and talking in the sunshine a couple of weeks ago. And you've seen me obsessing about maybe talking about nipping and tucking because I'm at the weight I want to be now, but everything is just too big or sagging on me now. And you said, Erin, we're 60. Nobody's looking at us.
I didn't mean that to be a bummer or anything, but this is a time in our lives when nobody's judging us for how we look, and we're a bigger package right now. Was that a surprise to you to sort of hear that?
Well, you talk about being 34 in your head, and for me, I'm forever 42. That's always where I'm going to be in my head, I hope. But you have spoken about this, and I think Michelle Yeoh at the Oscars the other night also said, don't ever let anybody tell you you're past your prime. And she is our age too, also born in 1962. And it's just like, we are fading into invisibility. That was your point.
And I don't see that as necessarily a negative. I realized as soon as I stopped coloring my hair and I started looking more my age that I became invisible, and younger people would maybe hold the door open for me, but do it with a impatient thing. Like, I gotta let this old broad through or whatever. And I actually found that kind of amusing. I thought it was kind of funny. It's like, you have no idea. I'm actually kind of cool and you're an idiot is what I was thinking in my head. But and thank you for holding the door. But I don't find it to be a complete negative. I find that there's so much more power within me now. I glow so much more inside me than I expect to come from outside me, that I don't mind if I'm walking around feeling kind of like I'm in an invisibility cloak. It doesn't bother me. And I don't feel like anybody cares what I wear. I don't know. It's just, I'm finding a freedom in it.
That's very interesting. I can only liken it to when I moved to Vancouver Island from Toronto, how long it took for me to even walk the dog without makeup on, because I was so used to having that mask, that armor, that thing that protected me. So when somebody went home after seeing me at Loblaws, they didn't say, whoa, what a bag, So I've always had that because of being in the public eye. And I don't know if I can ever let it go.
I shook it off in a heartbeat. Of course, I didn't have your level of recognizability, but that stuff, pretty much once I stopped working in Toronto, I just shook it off with no problem, and it felt great. I probably should wear more makeup.
Yeah.
But I do wear some, but I don't fuss a lot over it or any of that stuff.
What about your mom? Can we just do a little informal survey between the two of us? My grandmother, one of them was, she had to trek out to an outhouse until she was in her 70s. She was pure Prairie League, that woman. My other grandmother, dressed to the nines, always wearing her heels and her tender tootsies, no matter how bad her arthritis was, always with the jewelry and the lipstick. My mom, she would gasp at fellow women in the grocery store who would go grocery shopping in their curlers because they wanted to look good when their husbands got home.
Right.
She'd rather be dead than be seen in curlers. So I come from that level of look good when you go out, because that to her equaled self-respect. What was your mom like?
My mom would look amazing when she felt she was at her proper weight. And if she put on 10 pounds, she'd think, well, what's the point? And stop caring. And it wasn't that she didn't care. And even when I say I don't care, I mean, I still make sure things match and I am fully dressed and all that kind of stuff. I have a little bit of pride.
I've noticed that about you. I really like that about you, Lisa. You know that, Lisa? Everything matches on her. She is a snappy dresser.
Well, I have to admit, one day I went out and I didn't realize until I came back that I was wearing a pajama top. So, it's not always perfect, but luckily I had a jacket over it. Yeah, that's what my mom was like. She went through phases of, she felt like she had it all, and it usually had to do with weight. She would spend a lot more money on her clothing and pay a lot more attention to it. Yeah, she gave into what I'm giving into, and much, much younger than I have. Stretchy pants and sensible shoes and stuff like that. I still have my heels and stuff. I have a pair of Fluvogs that I haven't gotten rid of.
You should explain what Fluvogs are, because it sounded like you were just speaking, something out of Star Trek. We know what they are.
Fluvogs. Fluvogs are my dream shoe. I was standing in a Tim Hortons of all places one time with a friend I was working with, and I just was drawn to these heels in front of me because they were so unusual. They tapered, but then came out wide at the bottom, like a suction cup almost. And the shoes were obviously very expensive and well crafted. And I said to Leanne, what the heck is that? She goes, oh, that's a Fluvog. And it's Fluvog, and the designer is, I believe, Canadian.
Yeah.
And they have storefronts. They sell them. And they even have a community on their website where you can resell your used Fluvogs. And they hold their value remarkably if you've taken care of them. So it's just a thing where I fell in love with Fluvogs. And I've had a couple pair over the years. I'm always looking for a pair of boots, but they have to have the heel. If they don't have the Fluvog heel, what's the point?
You're going to have to post your Fluvogs on our Gracefully and Frankly Facebook page.
I will.
Because to me, they look like Minnie Mouse shoes. And that's not in a disparaging way. They are so unique.
There is a line of them called minis, and you can get them in all these bright colors and things. Mine, the ones I have right now, are pretty sedate. They're almost like a loafer, but with a heel. But that's the Fluvog story. And believe me, they haven't given me a nickel to say anything about this because I would go spend it on Fluvogs.
Yeah, exactly. Standing there stylishly in her loafers. You just mentioned being in line at Tim Hortons. Have you been to Tim Hortons lately? Are you doing the app thing with the roll up the rim to win thing? Because remember in radio, oh my gosh, they advertised a lot on the radio. It's all you'd ever hear were the ads. But are you doing that thing?
I'm not doing that thing. I don't go out for coffee that often. There isn't a Tim Hortons in Port Stanley, which Port Stanley is very proud of. We have a couple of our own coffee shops, and I just don't do it. I just don't. Do you?
No. I've got the greatest coffee system at home. I have a ball-bearing coffee maker. His name's Rob.
He is an excellent coffee maker. I've had his wares.
Yes, absolutely. So the story that got my attention last week, what would you do? What would you do? This guy is apparently misled into believing that he won $10,000 on the Timmy's Roll Up to Win contest. It's not Roll Up the Rim anymore, obviously, because it's all virtual. And the guy, turns out that he didn't win the $10,000. It was a quote unquote technical error. So what would you do if you were the guy who thought he'd won 10 grand?
Well, I don't know if you're aware of this, but there were more than just the one guy. There were a couple in the Maritimes and
no.
Yeah, so it was a technical glitch, they said, and I would be willing to bet that in all that fine print, it gets them out of having to pay. So Tim Hortons turns around and says, well, here's a $50 gift card instead. I can understand why the guy would want to sue, but I don't think it's going to go anywhere. I think they get out of it because of the little fine print that, we're not responsible for technical. The third party runs all this thing and it's not our fault and blah, blah, blah. But it's a jerk move for them to not do something when we know they're a corporate giant that has the money, and it's like 5 people, $50,000,
right? Something
like that. Just give them the money.
Right, and take it out of the other prizes that you had logged to go, right? Because it's all so controllable, right?
Yep, it is controllable. And you know what these companies are so bad at is PR. How can they absolutely not get it after all of these years to not know that they're going to look like pigs by not doing the right thing? I just don't understand. There are so many bad PR people out there and they're working for corporations. I don't get it.
It's so tone deaf you'd think Galen Weston was behind it. Jeez. So this leads us into another topic having to do with coffee, because earlier, of course, we heard about how much alcohol is healthy for you, and it turns out it's just about none. And there was a story that caught both of our attention in the Toronto Star a little while ago about how much caffeine is good for us or bad for us. And we're talking about coffee, because apparently there's a couple of ways to metabolize caffeine. I didn't know that.
Neither did I. And I guess that would explain why some people are really adversely affected by too much caffeine. Like me, for example, if I drink a coffee afternoon, I'll be up through the night. which doesn't make any sense. And I don't know if that means I'm not metabolizing it or whatever, but caffeine really affects me. My husband, on the other hand, could drink it all day, and if his stomach didn't fall out, it wouldn't bother him.
Right. So you two then, I guess, in a nutshell, are the two different kinds of ways that people metabolize coffee and caffeine.
Yeah.
And they also warn about kidney damage as well. So I'm taking that to mean that you probably need to drink a lot of water on the side too. But the question that was posed was, could you go down to 1 coffee per day? Asking us now when we're not having to get up in the middle of the night and form sentences and not offend anybody. Although it is why the first hour of our show, me and Cooper, was always the funniest because we didn't have the guardrails up yet.
Yes. Going down to 1 is something that I have been trying to do. And I found that it was the ritual more than anything. I have my first coffee and then I was going to have my second and go down to the basement to work. And I found that taking a decaf with me just didn't have the same oomph. So what I started to do was make 2 half calves. I took a page from Erin Davis's book and started to make 2 half calves. And that actually worked out a lot better. But it's a lot of work.
It is, but you know what? We're lucky to have our little coffee makers. And yes, indeed, I did take my Nespresso coffee maker to Maui, as I said that I was going to. Although on the way home, I had it in my carry-on. And this lovely young man, I could see everybody looking at the screen, looking at my carry-on. Okay. And then I thought, they've got to know that's a microphone, right? Everybody and his dog, or in your case, cat, has a podcast now. And the other thing, they're going, what do you think that is? So he went and opened it, and he just couldn't have been sweeter. I guess it's because I'm 60. I don't know.
You don't look 60. You don't look 60.
You know what? It's okay to look 60. Let's talk about Jamie Lee freaking Curtis, Michelle Yeoh, and we'll do that in just a sec. Michelle Yeoh, born same year as we are. I loved her acceptance speech. It was almost a foregone conclusion. And I'm heartbroken for the comments on Facebook and Twitter and all of the stupid platforms after Jamie Lee Curtis won. Because so many people thought that Angela Bassett should have won for Wakanda Forever. And I was like, why are we pitting these women against each other? Aren't we supposed to be lifting each other up? And it's always been this way, 95 years, but still.
Well, I look at it like when Rolling Stone puts out the top 100 albums of all time and everybody just quibble.
Right.
Part of it is to get us talking about the movies and wanting to go see them. And how can you really make a value judgment? I was happy to see that Brendan Fraser won, but Austin Butler was amazing as Elvis. I didn't see The Whale, so I don't know for sure. And I'm not making the decisions. So it's really hard to say this performance is better than that performance. They're all a little bit different. I don't know. It should just be a night celebrating the movies.
You know what one of my favorite moments, though, was? And I stopped the PVR and ran it back. We were watching it in real time, and then our power went out. And thank goodness we were able to watch it later on as well. But Christopher Guest, who is, of course, from Spinal Tap and Best in Show, Waiting for Guffman, and those wonderful movies. He doesn't get in Jamie's light or shadow. He just lets her do her thing. But they were sitting together at the Oscars, and when her name was announced and she was full on surprised, he closed his eyes, pursed his lips, and it was like a loving wince. It was like, yes. And I had to go back and look at it because to me, it was just so much love that I had to watch it.
And that's a couple married 30 plus years or whatever. And she basically picked him out of a magazine. And I mean, they have an incredible story, a great life. And that's what I think a couple ought to do, is celebrate each other. And it was an absolutely beautiful moment. And I think Jamie Lee Curtis is just radiant. And she's everything I want to be when I grow up. She's not afraid to speak her mind. She has great ideas. The idea about having bands play their concerts in the afternoon, like a matinee, so that we can all stay awake to see them. What a great idea. And I think the world of her. And look, she's gone from Scream Queen to Oscar winner. I mean, and of course, people call her a Nepo baby now for having parents in the business, but she's...
As in nepotism. And she's embraced that. She said, I know I'm a Nepo baby. I know this.
Yeah.
But for her to mention Tony and Janet, they got nominated and we won an Oscar. That whole speech was just fantastic. And screw the haters. I mean, yes, Angela Bassett was luminescent in that film. She's great in everything she does, and she should have won as Tina Turner way back in the day. But darn it, can we not celebrate winners instead of, except for Thames. Can we talk about Thames? Not the river in England.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so it's exciting for this Thames person. Well, she's from Nigeria, I believe. Wrote the song that was nominated that Rihanna sung. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, co-wrote it. There were a couple of writers, yeah.
So she sits down in this dress that has a giant, she looked like a snake, like a python with this big white thing behind her head and people behind her trying to look around it. I don't care who you are. That's just rude.
It really was. And to sort of explain it, she looked fantastic on the champagne carpet. Not red anymore. That's woke. No, we'll talk about that too. But it looked like she was sitting in an antebellum wicker chair that came up around the back of her head. But literally, there were about 6 people behind this woman who couldn't see. And it's like, really? I get invited to the Oscars and my view is your dress.
Yeah.
It's just like, no, if your designer was that good, there would have been something where you could detach it.
Yeah.
I think she left after the song lost. So to the utter amazement and thrill of the people behind her, but I hope they just put seat fillers there and move the people in those seats to better seats. Or next time, Thames, you're in the lobby. I mentioned the W word there, woke. So tired of hearing everybody who doesn't understand something and doesn't want to learn about it, calling it woke. Can we just lose that? It's like, Lisa, it's like the modern equivalent to politically correct. Used to be whenever anything was kind or, no, we're going to put a ramp in here or we're going to make sure that everybody has access to this. Oh, you're being politically correct. No, it's inclusive and kind. But now it's woke.
There seem to be 2 types of people, and one type wants everybody to be able to join in and have access and do everything that everybody else can do, and the other type feels like they're losing something when that happens. And I don't see where that is possibly happening. That how do you lose something by being kind or inclusive to somebody else? You gain, if anything.
Absolutely. And it's just mind-boggling to me, the selfishness and the me. But, I mean, there are political parties completely built on that. We're not getting enough. Somebody else is getting more. You know, I may not like the candidate, but he hates the same people I do. So,
well, everybody who shook their fist when Tucker Carlson or anybody else on Fox News said Americans should be outraged needs to take a breath now that they know that he was lying the whole time. And it's fact. It's proven. It's not an opinion. So,
yeah.
Woke, I believe you retweeted Bob Rae, the former Ontario Premier, and he said, woke is just another way of saying kind. And that's all it means.
So now that we know what woke means, you did a blog earlier, and you can find it linked at our Gracefully and Frankly Facebook page, and of course, voiceoflisabrandt.com, where you looked at some new words, and I deliberately, which was hard, didn't read your piece because I wanted you to ask them to all of us here, for those of us who haven't seen it yet. So, way you go.
All right. So these are new words. They're just some I selected, sort of cherry picked from dictionary.com. They put new words into the dictionary. So I'll give you the word and see if you can tell me what it means. Nearly wed.
Oh, well, that's exactly what it sounds like. You're in a long engagement?
Or just a long-term partner, may or may not have a wedding date or plans to marry, but just because you've been together so long, you're a nearly wed.
Okay.
That was an easy one. Rage farming.
Oh, Tucker Carlson and
go.
the morally bereft people at Fox. They're just people who are planting ideas about they're coming to take away your bathrooms. They're coming to take away this or that. They're trying to make you angry because that's what fuels their work.
Yeah.
Your anger keeps you coming back because they're all just trying to get you angry because it keeps you coming back.
This one is easy. Petfluencer.
Are you a petfluencer, Lisa?
I'm trying to be, but it's not really working.
Do tell. Tell me what you're doing.
Oh, I have a Cuddles the Senior Cat Instagram, and, was trying to peddle him as a little bit of a... He's not as famous as Miss Sugar, who was my previous Instagram cat, so he's just not into it.
There you go. Kind of like Hugh Grant on the champagne carpet. Just doesn't want to be there. Yeah. Okay.
All out of you-know-what's, Hugh Grant.
God. Yeah.
Okay, and this is one I found that is actually an old word that's coming back into the dictionary. It's called cheese pairing.
Oh, is that like pairing as in P-A-I-R or pairing as in with a knife?
P-A-R, as in with a knife.
Oh, okay. I give up. What is it?
It means something worthless.
Oh.
So if you've taken the rind off your cheese, it's worthless. So if you talk about something as cheese pairing, it's just nothing at all.
Well, there you go.
Okay, now the Urban Dictionary, where people can go in and put words that they've made up or phrases they've made up. This one was in the blog. It's air jail.
Oh, I'm in air jail. Does that mean you're... air jail. I think it means you've been suspended from social media?
No, this is something you do to a pet. So say your cat takes off with a piece of your food, so you hold him in the air.
Oh.
And limit his movement. I would never do that to Cuddles.
I thought it meant like being under the seat in front of you in a cage, a carrier. That's air jail too.
Yeah, we can always change the definition. Flopcorn.
Wow. That's a bad serving of popcorn.
Pretty much. It's the kernels at the bottom that didn't pop.
Oh, those used to be called old maids, Rob tells me.
Oh, really?
Honestly, yeah.
That's not woke.
Or dental bills. That's another name for them. No, that is not woke.
Witch hair.
W-I-T-C-H?
Yep.
Oh, dear. Witch hair.
You and I both have one.
Oh, is it? I don't know. Where is it?
It's a single strand of hair that grows out of your face or chest.
Oh, my goodness. Rob and I were, quote unquote, cuddling the other night, and between my chin hairs and the hairs on his shoulders, I think we got caught like a piece of Velcro. Oh, my God, we're never going to get apart. Oh, my God.
And there's one more.
Yes.
Underwater ceramic technician.
Oh, that would be a plumber.
A dishwasher.
Oh, that's awesome. Somebody who washes dishes by hand?
Yep.
Oh, great. Thanks for all those words. And we're just about out of them, although, we never are. So we're going to sign off for episode 11 here. Hopefully you had some laughs and maybe even got angry with us or at us. Let us know. You can always send us your feedback. Post on our Facebook page, Gracefully and Frankly, or you can reach us other ways, right, Lisa?
Drop us an email at gracefullyfrankly@gmail.com. We are on Instagram. You can find us on the Twitter. And if you think really hard and concentrate on us, you can send us a telepathic message.
It's true. We're that good. Anyway, thanks a lot, Lisa. It was a blast, and we'll talk to you again next week.
You bet.
Thanks, Envy Pillow. Once again, sweet dreams.